You're on.
All right, welcome back. All right, Jan, Ed.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is the first of two required public hearings according to state statute for the adoption of your fiscal year 19 budget. We began this budget process back in May when we delivered to you the county administrator's recommended budget. You've had hours and hours of workshops over the summer. You've set the trim millage rate on in early August, and now it's time to proceed with the two required public hearings. We've provided you all of the information to date. Today is, or tonight's meeting is to hear from the public about any thoughts they might have relative to the budget that's before you. And so I would suggest Jan will give a brief update and summary of the overall budget, and then I would suggest we hear from the public. Jan?
Very quick, Jan.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I do want to read one piece per our trim rules into the budget, so if you'll bear with me just a second. First item of information is to describe this percentage of additional property taxes that will be generated by the growth in tax base exclusive of growth from new construction. This is also referred to as the increase in revenue over rollback rate or amount. In the budget proposal of Manatee County, while the overall tax rates are not increasing, the aggregate increase over rollback percentage is 4.57%. The aggregate millage rate for FY19 is 6.8779, and the rollback aggregate rate of 6.5776. We'd like to provide you now with a high-level view of the budget, of which now Port Manatee has been included in. So with that, Jamie, if you'll assist me. You can see that your overall taxable property values have slowly rebounded up to around the 2007 level. We are just now at this point reaching it after all these years.
Good.
The countywide millage rate, however, you have maintained at a flat rate, and you have done so since 2014. In the current year's tentative budget, you actually have not increased the millage, but your voted debt service did retire. So in doing that, we took the voted debt service, we placed it in transportation for the additional amount to be there. So therefore, you have a level countywide millage. The operating is 6.4303. It is now 6.4326. Voted debt service has flat to zero, and unincorporated of 0.6109 has remained the same. You also have the Palm Air MSTU, which has also remained the same at 0.2546. If I may, I'd like to take you quickly through your revenues by source for this overall budget. The overall net budget is $738 million. As you can see, the largest piece is belonging to property taxes, a close tie with charges for services now that we've added everything. Property taxes are at $236 million, which represent 32% of your budget. Going around the pie chart, other taxes at $65 million, or 8.8%. Your charges for services, the largest of which make up the bulk of your utility system, 32.4%. License permits and fees are at $140 million, or 19%, and your intergovernmental revenues, those are from the state, federal levels, are $58 million, or 7.8%. Revenues taken in are classified by the state categories, which are listed above. And again, I'm going to start over on the left at public safety, which represents $176 million where you've invested your money. That's 23.8% of the budget. The physical environment involves 21.9% at $162 million. Your physical environment includes your utilities, your stormwater, solid waste. Public transportation follows around the pie at $53 million, or 7.2%. That now also includes the port. Human services are represented at 26 million, or 3.5%. Culture and recreation, which includes your library and your civic center, at 22 million, or 2.9. Capital outlay this year is at 151 million, 20.5%. And then we've lumped together your economic environment, your transfer from other governmentals, 8.5%, 63 million. And the general government is the final piece at 11.5%, or 85 million. Now that concludes the presentation of how the budget has increased and what's gone through. If I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to at this time.
Commissioner Benek.
I had one question I said I was going to ask, because it's a question I always get every year, and that is the increased revenue, which of course is based on increase in property values, what the increased revenue is targeted for.
Okay.
And we have that chart available.
Jamie, if you could flip over and start at the top, and I'll walk you through it. So if you could enlarge that tremendously and then go all the way up. So this is the general fund. I included general fund and parks because you're looking for the new taxes that are coming in. And if you remember, we split parks out of the general fund. So for this representation, I'm putting them together. Your property taxes increased at 16.1 million, and other income roughly at 2.6. So you had 18.7 million of new income coming in for revenues. Now from that, a couple of things we deducted off the top. The first being the additional homestead exemption of 3.5. We're setting that aside. I'm not saying you're not getting it, but you're setting it aside to use as one-time money. Also, there was an increase in your CRAs. Your Southwest TIF went up by almost $1 million, and that's taking that off the top. So roughly you had 14.2 million of revenue available. And Jamie, if you'll scroll down. So base and continuation units, now this is both for the BOCC and the constitutionals, is roughly 5.8 million. The employee compensation to remain competitive, that's your 4%, for both the constitutionals and the BOCC is 5.3 million. And if you could scroll down a little bit, Jamie. You have a couple of other items that are incidentals at 1.3 million. Maintain service standards for adjusting growth was at 0.8, and you had desired decision units or basic an increase of level of 1.0, and that includes parks and the general fund. So the remaining revenue ended up at a net of 0 for 14.2 million coming in and 14.2 million going out. Did that help?
Yeah, so mostly it's additional level of service and maybe public works, and everything was in the enterprise funds, was paid for by the enterprise funds, so that really doesn't matter. That's not really accounted for here, but there was an increased number of people in the sheriff's office. That was the constitutional sheriff got an increase
Yes.
of at least 10 positions, if I'm...
He got actually 12.
Well,
10 are new, 2 are coming from Anna Maria, which Anna Maria is paying you for.
okay, so that's the increased level of service?
Yes. And the 1.3 million, if you go up to number 5, the largest part of that is the $1 million of additional recurring health care that you've taken new money to fill that health care gap. That was in your 5-year plan. You only have 1 more year of it, and you're done. Okay. And then pictometry of about 300,000.
Okay, let's open this up for public comment. I have a few people signed up. Pam Freeney. State your name. You have 3 minutes, please.
Hello, my name is Pam Freeney, and I'm the president of Animal Network. On June the 13th, I stood before you and addressed you about the need of a new animal shelter. At the time, I was very excited because there was an appropriate line item in the 2018 to 2022 CIP that could have been used to take this forward. It was a solution for replacing the 25-year-old shelter that's currently serving our county. As the president of Animal Network, I even committed my organization to raising $2 million from the community to support in this effort. I'm not sure you can imagine my distress when recently I was flipping through the 2019 through 23 CIP and found not only was the original $1 million I addressed you about last time was gone, but the CIP had also disappeared, leaving no avenue to continue to fund this concept. Now there's a single line item on page 352 of the 2019 CIP showing that we're back to the project of record stage. We're taking a step backwards, in my opinion, and it seems as though no one realized that this is not an insignificant issue for a 45-year-old location. There are real lives involved here, as once again dozens of dogs spent their entire summers in areas that are subject to 90-degree weather with 75% humidity while still wearing their fur coats. Things are not going to improve at this shelter. Therefore, I'm requesting that you reestablish an appropriate CIP in the 2019-2023 plan for a new animal shelter, showing significant funding beginning in 2020 as the old CIP did, and showing the full amount that is currently being established in the project of record of 13.5 spread across 2020 to 2023. Based on the support that I perceived that I was gathering here in June, I created an entire fundraising campaign, and I'm almost ready to explain the need for a more humane shelter to the Manatee County residents. It was predicated on the forward motion from the county as of January the 1st, 2019, with groundbreaking within 3 years after that. Until this happens, I cannot go to the community. Even if we begin funding in 2020 and open the facility in 2023, the shelter dogs being housed in the full summer heat have no release for at least 5 years. This is a real struggle for me. So I'm asking you to please reinstate a line for the new shelter in the 2019 CIP, showing an annual spread of the amount shown in the project of record estimate of $13.5 million. I really think we owe the pets, the staff, and the volunteers, and our community this. We need a new shelter. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pat Neal.
Hello, Madam Chair. I'm Pat Neal, 1003 59th Street Northwest. As you know, we're building an extension of Fort Hamer Extension at county expense for about $12.4 million. At this time, we are on time and on budget. We think that there will be some savings which are achievable through the course of that may be used in a manner that I will describe briefly. At the northern terminus of the Fort Hamer Extension is the Moxonwalla Road, which is a two-lane divided road where we plan to build, along with the school board and 115th Street, 6 acceleration and deceleration lanes that will cost about $1.5 million. Because the road is going to be in construction in the near future, we think the $1.5 million of temporary improvements will be destroyed unless we can try to add on to the project in such a way as to build a 4-lane section at the north T of Fort Hamer Extension. At the suggestion of your staff, we have hired Fishkind Associates to create an economic impact analysis of building Fort Hamer Extension, and we've made a grant application, which Marianne and I are seeing the governor about on Friday. We think that there's a reasonable chance that the jobs grant, a special fund created by the recent legislature, we think there's a reasonable chance that the grant will be made. However, the grant is for $6 million roughly for perhaps $9 million of improvements. For this to be effective and for Manatee County to be able to meet its own obligation, Moxonwalla Road has to be on the capital improvement plan. So our request either today or the 18th or the 25th is that when you consider the grant application, that you make such necessary steps as to add Moxonwalla Road to your capital improvement program. My suggestion is from 115th Street east to U.S. Highway 301. There has been some discussion about a much larger project from I-75 to U.S. 301. So, Madam Chair, once again, my request is that you add this portion of the road. We would then add the extra money if there is any from Fort Hamer Extension. There's a possibility that we'll get the grant, but under all cases, you'll need it on the CIP to expand county money. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. John Neal?
Chairman, I'm just going to agree with the previous gentleman. I don't have anything additional to add to that. Thank you.
Marmo.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak on the budget? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment. Commissioner Whitmore.
Can Ed or Sherry explain to me Pam's comments about the shelter? And I think I even talked to you about it, Ed. I thought that money, I understand that we need monies to have repairs if something happened, but I thought we were talking about having that money, and I know we're working on other things that aren't really public yet, but I thought we were going to start holding that money back for the capital, for the animal services, for the new
The
facility.
$1 million that was in the capital improvement program, if I recollect correctly, was to renovate the existing facility.
That's what it was, yes.
We have, it was my intent that we were going to talk about building a new facility and take that $1 million. That's why we took that out of the CIP, awaiting a discussion about how it is we could go about finding a site and a price tag for a new facility. We're still in the process of doing that, so it's not like we've abandoned the project. It's still a work in process.
And Pam, the reason why, and I understand what you're saying, Ed, when you take, if you have that money in the CIP and we don't have a plan yet, then it could get dropped for something else. So, but your intentions were to put that money in the CIP once you get the plans together?
Once we get the plan, the location, and we're back to the board with a new proposal to not spend $1 million on the current facility, but spend that money and whatever money can be raised on a new facility.
And I know their plans are aggressive. They're thinking like within the next 2 years to start.
Yes.
And they would put up 2, we'd have $1 million. Well, we still have about $6 million that we'd have to come up with as a county. Is that why you haven't
Well,
put
I'm
it
not
in?
so sure it's we or you. That is a discussion that's to be had at a later date about how we could raise the money to pay for a new facility. As you recall, the facility that we're currently in is a little old. It's a little worn out. And the power from Florida Power is maxed out so that there's no additional ability to expand the operation with additional power demands. So it's best if we find a new location, and then it's a question of how we raise the money, whether there's community support or something in one of your funding sources that could make that happen. But that's all in the works still, and report on tonight.
Well, but we took it out of the CIP, so, and it, they had requested that it be in because they're aggressive, and even if we had to come up with some monies, we'd have to figure out another way to fund it, even if it's, again, I know you don't like talk about this up again today, borrowing it on our end to build the shelter. They have an aggressive schedule, and you all remember the late Mr. Benderson, a month or two before he passed away, gave $5 million to Southeast Guide Dogs. So there are people out there that may be able to be willing to even meet the whole goals. But unless we have it in the CIP, these organizations aren't going to go out and ask the community. So how can we all work together on this?
We can continue to work together. I'm not prepared to commit this board to doing something you haven't spoken about as a group and committed and directed us to go out and borrow money to pay for an expanded facility. That's a discussion yet to be had by this board in a workshop in the future.
Well, we did. It was brought up to us at the last budget meeting, and it's been the intent. And it's, I mean, it's going to be too late if we wait for another work session and bring it up because it's not on the next scheduled work session.
You can amend your capital improvement program at any board meeting throughout the year.
Okay. Yeah, I know. So that may be another option. So I would ask that Pam talk with Ed or Sherry. She left already? Okay. Well, we'll contact her. Yeah. I mean, this lady's very impressive. And
yes, I've met with her, and I thought we were of the same mind, but apparently
she didn't understand the CIP and what goes on there, I don't think. But maybe if we could ask Sherry or somebody or to call her, I'd appreciate it.
We'll be in touch with her.
Okay. Because my intention is to work on this in the next 4 years, big time.
I'm next on the board. I'd like to task the staff to come back with us for a vote on this, that we can get this Marcus and Wallow on the capital improvement plan with the stipulation that if the state gives us the money from this infrastructure be spent on Marcus and Wallow, and if the state doesn't give us the money, then it goes off the capital improvement plan.
I'll
But
talk
if
to
the
the-
state is willing to pay for Marcus and Wallow, I say thank you very much, because it's such a fine named road. Agreed?
The grant application, we were prepared to bring at your next board meeting, and I think the inclusion of the CIP, I'll bring it up at the department directors tomorrow, and maybe we can add that.
Thank you. Commissioner DeSabatino.
Yeah, that's quite humorous. So I would say regarding the animal facility, wait for a new board on that one, please. And the flag list of items we can't discuss until we get the final figures from the property appraiser, is that correct?
That would be my suggestion until he does his final certification. That happens at the end of September, that it would be premature to have that discussion.
Oh, I wanted to ask, Jan had on one of her last slides, it had CRAs or TIF, 1 million. Can you put that slide back?
Jamie,
I don't
can you
think
go
we had
back
it.
to the Excel spreadsheet?
Because I don't think we had that.
Go down.
Yeah, because it says CRAs. But
I'm sorry. I should have put CRA TIFs. It's actually the Southwest TIF
Right.
went out by $1 million. So
Okay, that's
I
why-
think that's an old form that I was just
Got it.
plugging in. But no, ma'am, it is the Southwest TIF that went up by $1 million.
CRAs.
And the CRAs, but mostly it was the TIF
Two of them, right?
together. Yeah,
There's,
Port TIF and
there's a total of 4 or 5 CRAs
The
that,
cities.
The cities, we don't have any.
Right.
We don't, but
We
we
don't
ha-
put money back in right
have-
now.
But that reduces
but
our
that
revenue.
comes out of your revenues and goes to them. So it detracts from the balance of 18.7 is the amount of money you contribute of that 18.7 to the CRAs and the TIF. And it's roughly $1 million.
And
It's a total,
how much
I think
money-
just the CRAs, a total of about $7.5 million a year you write to the CRAs.
by themselves, but they didn't increase as much as the Southwest TIF. That was the biggest one.
They
This
have
is just
over
the
time.
change.
Barrington Beach.
How much now would be in the Southwest TIF?
I can tell you that if you
Blighted
give me just
area.
a second.
Yeah, the blighted street on Barrington Beach.
Right.
Are you done, Robin, while you're waiting?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, Commissioner Benak, why?
Yeah, and I, it's been a while, but to put something in the CIP, don't we have to have revenue?
That
It can
would-
be a project of record, but to actually have it in a 5-year program, don't you have to have revenue? So I don't think we can just put something in the CIP unless we have a revenue source.
Yes,
Infrastructure
you're so
tax.
correct.
Okay.
We have a revenue.
So
If
love
we
the
were,
idea of the grant to pay for a road. We've done it before. If you look at 63rd, that where Flowers Bakery was, that was a grant that we got from the state to expand that road to a 4-lane road. It's a good deal. Back in the day, we're able to show, economic development, and I remember thinking that was a really cool thing. So I like thinking outside the box, but I love your idea of putting it in. I don't know if you could put it in with an asterisk or not.
well, I'm not so sure, but I think you might be able to put it in, and when you show the revenue, you have an anticipated revenue. Now, the project won't go anywhere until the anticipated revenue becomes a real revenue. But, yeah, I think we
Okay,
could work
that
that way.
sounds good. And and I certainly know, I always like to joke about Lockwood Ridge Road, and I don't know where C is, but Lockwood Ridge Road was in a 5-year CIP for 20 years. It just was.
Fort Amer Bridge was
Because-
around a while.
Yeah, well, because it was dependent really on growth. It was dependent on the developments around it to pay for it. So even though we all thought that was a great road project, and it is today still, but it was literally in a 5-year.
Some of those
plan for
projects have a
20
long life.
Yeah, and so, and I think that's probably why you're getting the angst on the animal shelter, because we did have money in there and now it's not. But I don't think this.
We didn't take the money
I
and-
think everybody on this board recognizes we need a new animal shelter. That's something that we need to task ourselves with, figure out how we're going to get the money, and a public-private partnership would be excellent. So we need to we need to discuss that more than just as a project of record. It's a project of record moving forward. I don't know if that's a good enough distinction, but.
And we need a location.
Oh,
Well,
I know
that's all
what you called it.
Do you have the answer,
We
Jan?
just bought some land out in Lakewood Ranch.
Yes,
That's what I was thinking, actually.
No,
I'm not sure it's a good place
Far
on
out
Lakewood
east.
Ranch, but.
yes, ma'am, I do.
All right.
In the Southwest TIF, which is on page 212 of your proposed book, you actually start the year with 5.7 million. The income that is coming in this year is 4.5, so you have a total of 10.2 to spend. Now, what's programmed in is 1.1 million at the current time, and the remainder is in reserves of 9.1.
What are you talking about?
Southwest
Southwest TIF, I didn't know what
thank
she was
you.
talking about either.
You know what 1.1 is programmed for?
We're going to recruit a good company.
Redevelopment and economic opportunity. I can
Is it
detail it.
earmarked for specific items?
There's details in your budget book that, in the decision unit format that you went over in June.
Right.
It's in there.
I just sent an email to Sherry and you all, Sherry, asking for a whole breakdown in the language of that Southwest TIF.
We'll provide you the details from the
I just wanted,
pages.
real quick, to divert real quick. The language in that Southwest TIF is not strictly for economic development, is it?
No.
No,
Okay.
we know that.
Thank you. I just wanted that on the record.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes, Madam Chair, I have several items that came up. When you mentioned the $1 million increase, that's the Southwest TIF, or is that the city CRAs?
No, it is in the Southwest TIF. It went up approximately $1 million based upon valuation.
So we've increased $1 million in valuation.
Where's the CRA?
Going into the TIF.
The CRAs are in the base because they're in the overall. And I can tell you what each of them are if you'd like to know.
Yeah, I would like the same information that Commissioner DeSabatino asked for also.
Yeah, I asked them to forward it to everyone.
Yeah, could I get that information? And also, Mr. Neal mentioned the Moccasin Wallow Road. And my understanding that he's going to meet up with Governor Scott, I believe, this Friday? Okay, this Friday. So certainly, if we got a chance to get $6 million, it makes business sense to consider doing what we need to do because sending Senator Neal up there and nothing has been done, we got to make some type of a move to say, yeah, we get to your point. The $6 million, of course, it needs to be in there because we don't want the taxpayers to pay for the $6 million locally. We want it from the state. And as you know, the governor term is ending. So I think we need to deal with this at the next meeting or some. We can't do anything in here, but we need to have a kind of consensus that, yeah, we're willing to look at doing that so Senator Neal can have some teeth in his conversation when they get up there that we're willing to, we get the $6 million. Of course, we want the money, and we're willing to do our share. That's his partnership from what I can see. And so hopefully we can do something. I know we can't vote, but we can shake our head, nod our head, or whatever it needs to be, that we're willing to open to that. So I'm certainly supporting that. Also, the other thing on here, when we look at the animal network, I hope that's something that can basically be worked out also, because I know that we have talked about a new facility, and I know we need a new facility. I think it bothers me when we have someone saying, by the way, I'm looking to raise $2 million, but I can't raise $2 million unless the county going to do something, and we know we're not going to do anything unless you raise the $2 million. But we need to be able to help these individuals move forward with that, too. When you mentioned the $1.76 million for public safety, does that include all public safety, emergency services, just law enforcement? When you mentioned everything. Okay. It also includes the 12 positions with the sheriff department. Okay. All right. So when we look at the CRAs in the Southwest TIF district, how much money we have? About $10 million total. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's just sitting there.
10-2, yep.
For a
Okay.
project, hopefully.
So certainly, I hope we can come up with a plan. I know the county administrator has been talking about if someone comes and come with a proposal and it makes sense for the county and the partnership, they will ask for some money. from that standpoint. So I'm interested in getting that information about the CRAs, the Southwest TIF District. We have the 12 positions for the Sheriff Department in there. Do we have still in there about employee raises?
Yes, sir.
That's still in there.
Yes, sir.
Has anything been took out the CIP other than that we are not aware of?
No.
Okay, all right. I don't have any more questions right now.
Commissioner DeSabatino.
Just trying to make light of things. I guess whoever ponies up the money for this new road might get first dibs on naming it. I'm just saying.
No.
I kind of like Marcus and Wallow.
And then also, not just, this doesn't pertain to now, but if you can fill us in on where we are with the Samoset MSTU situation, and will that be on next year's, or are we going to revise this year's to have a Samoset MSTU?
That's the lighting district?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll check on that tomorrow morning, where the status of that is,
Okay.
when it might be coming back to the board.
Thank you.
Commissioner Whitmore.
I know everybody keeps honing in on this 10 million that's in the Southwest TIF, and if we remember, and it'll probably go up next year because the hotels will be built, maybe another one coming. But remember, and Jerry went through this with us, that in order to attract a business that could attract high-paying jobs and to that district, we need to be able to offer incentives. And I mean, not 10 million. But we needed to be able to offer something, and we all agreed at that time at a work session, it wasn't a vote, that that was our goal. And you're absolutely right. The money's also for redevelopment in the district and doing what's on those 191 lists too. We could use the infrastructure tax for some of that too. So I just didn't want us to sway away. Yeah, we got all this money. Our money is so we can attract a high-paying business to come to that area for redevelopment, and then also that'll improve everything else for redevelopment. So I don't want us to lose sight of that, because everybody keeps saying, well, we got that 10 million sitting there. Jerry's gone over it at a few work sessions what the purpose of it was. And that is a lot of money. I mean, not all of it. We have other issues that we need to deal with in District 4, and that's what that money's for.
Commissioner DeSabatino.
Yes, but we do need a balance, because we did sell it to the voters, the taxpayers, that it's going to be a multifaceted plan. A lot of neighborhoods were relying on that money that they're paying in each year for some improvements of sidewalks, streetlights, and whatever. But that money can also be used as our, quote, piggy bank to forward funds for the lighting, and then we're paid back over a period of time. So I'm just here to tell you that I just heard today on my way back that some neighborhoods met with staff and were very disappointed to hear that, oh no, the money is only for economic development, period. And that's why I wanted him to say it's not just for economic development. Okay, thank you.
I think we make the
Commissioner
decisions.
Johnson.
Yes, can I make a motion to approve
Yes, you may.
Resolution B-19-001 for the tentative millage rates for fiscal year 18 and 19?
Second that motion.
Okay. Do I have to open up public comment for each one, or have we taken our public comment?
I think you've taken your public comment on the budget. Now it's just implementing what the
Okay.
discussion.
We have a motion on the board made by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Madam Chair, I think you have to open. I've never don't remember not opening public comment
But
for
we
each
had,
one.
we had public comment.
But I remember doing it for each one in the past, but
All
it's
right.
up to you.
Would
It's
anyone
rather be
on the
safe,
motion we just passed, would anyone like to make a comment on it?
just to be
Seeing no one
safe.
come forward, we'll close public comment. Would anyone like to come forward on public comment on motion number B?
If I could, there's a required read into the record at this meeting.
Okay?
The announced aggregate millage rate comparison. The aggregate millage rate for Manatee County Board of County Commissioners for fiscal year 2019 is 6.8779, and the change from the rollback aggregate millage rate of 6.5776 for the operating millage is hereby determined to be 4.57%. Again, there is no increase in the overall tax rate.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson, do you have another motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution B-19-002.
Second.
All right, anyone from the public wish to comment on this?
Can I do that one?
Commissioner
That
Bernard.
way.
Me.
Okay. See no one go forward, we'll close public comment. We had a motion by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Benak. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Commissioner Johnson, you're on a roll.
Yep, for the hat trick. Motion to adopt Resolution B-19-003 to adopt the tentative budget for 18 and 19 for all identified Manatee County Department special districts.
Dependent
districts.
Dependent special
Dependent.
district.
Oh, dependent, I'm sorry, what did I say, independent?
I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
Okay? All right, anyone from the public wish to speak on this motion? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment. Motion by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
One more item, Madam Chair. Location and date of the second public hearing required by state statute will be on September 18th, 2018, at 6 p.m. in this meeting room in the board chambers, 1112 Manatee Avenue West, Bradenton, Florida.
All right, any other comments? Commissioner Smith?
I'm trying to find out, Madam Chair, where we at on this Moccasin Wallow Road?
Yeah, don't we have that action?
We tasked the staff. They said we would come back and vote on it.
Well, I understand that, but I'm just saying Mr. Neal is leaving up Friday. Can we just nod our head nay or no? So he can say, yeah, okay. I just wonder, do we have a majority nodding their head? Okay.
No? I made a motion that we would add it to the CIP, to have the staff work on it, to add it to the CIP.
No, you
So
didn't.
that we,
No, you didn't make the motion.
well, I made the motion that the staff would come back with it to add it to the CIP next week.
Can you make the motion? I'll
But
second.
you have
if
to
make-
pass the gavel.
You have to pass the
You
gavel.
got to pass the gavel to
You
someone.
didn't make a motion.
One of y'all.
I could have made.
I make a motion that the staff come back and apply it to the CIP for us to vote on next week.
I second that motion.
Do we have a meeting next week?
Yeah, next week.
You have a
We
budget
have
public
one
hearing.
on, we have one next Tuesday evening.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Benak?
Madam Chair, so our next meeting, the September 18th public hearing, is the budget, is the capital improvement public hearing where we're going to be considering the public hearing.
Yes.
The motion that is on the floor is to add this item with the funding shown with this grant. We don't have any other funding yet. We would have to find funding for the full construction, and we don't have that. So right now, I want to make sure I know before I vote, I'm funding it with the grant amount, $6 million. That's what it said in here. And that will be in the CIP with an asterisk or with?
We'll figure that out. I believe the project cost is estimated at $9 million.
Okay.
$6 million coming from the state, $3 million coming from some source within this government. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow morning, and we'll figure out how to present that next Tuesday.
Okay. And then, is this a project of record, Moccasin Wallow Road expansion from
Yes.
east of I-75? I assume east of I-75 all the way over to 301.
Madam Chair, we're concerned about utility relocation, and it has to be a project of record to require the Peace River Electric Cooperative and Florida Power and Light to move their utilities. We think that's about a $1.2 million item. So I respectfully ask that you make sure that is a project of record at such time as you're done with the motions. It's an important part of the
Okay.
request.
Well, then as long as the motion, and I'm going to ask to have it read, is to direct staff to look at how we could put this in the capital improvement plan.
I agree.
Because that's as far as I can go at this time, because I don't have a real comfort level of where we're at, what the funding requirement will be, or where we're going to get the funding. So, and I think all those things are needed for the capital improvement program. So, but I have no
Can't go
problem
any-
directing staff to do that.
I do not have that motion. I'm sorry. It was not clear to me.
Motion I was for staff to, for us to be able to vote on it next week to figure out how to put it on the capital improvement plan so that we can get this grant, which is a very good deal for taxpayers' dollars if we can accomplish that.
Okay, thank you.
Taxpayers, not taxpayer dollar.
Can I make a
Mr. Slant?
suggestion?
Yes, sir.
We have a work session on Tuesday. We could probably talk about this at that work session. You're really not supposed to, at budget public hearings, have substantive other discussions about other things. It's part of the budget hearings. So we could talk about it, lay all that out Tuesday at the work session. I think you could vote on it then Tuesday night at the meeting. I think that's okay.
I am fine with that, in which case we do not need a motion, correct?
Correct.
Not
Okay.
at this time.
I'm fine with
but-
that too.
But we'll add it to the work session on Tuesday to have a discussion
I
about
will
it.
withdraw my motion with the understanding that we will discuss it on Tuesday.
Do we have to advertise that as possibly on the agenda of Tuesday night?
Yeah, I see, I'm not sure about all those
Improvement plan anyway,
those things, so.
on
CIP.
Tuesday night.
Okay.
So it would,
Could I ask another question here? Mr. Neal is going this Friday, so this won't be by that time anyway. Can we do it on the 25th as we need you to approve the grant application, applying? We need to lay out the funding for you and how all that would work. So we could do it on the 25th and we could amend it then. If you want to do it faster, then we'd have to try to do it Tuesday, next
as long as
Tuesday.
Mr. Neal thinks he can get his good buddy, the governor, to agree
Madam Chair.
that.
Are you ready for this one? I'm with the next governor next Thursday, the 18th. It would be better for me that it be the 25th.
Okay,
The next governor, if he's Ron DeSantis, would also have the right to do this deal.
okay.
It'd be better that we be on the 25th, so we could
On
be
the
here
On the
to
25th.
On the
discuss.
25th.
Okay.
We could modify, I mean,
On the
Madam Chair.
workshop, we can take care of it. So I withdraw my motion with the understanding that on Tuesday, we will discuss this on how to facilitate it.
Okay, just to be clear, then on Tuesday we would do it, we'd have a discussion at the work session.
And we will
then bring
vote
it
on the
back on the
25th.
25th at the regular board meeting.
Right.
As an item. Okay.
Okay,
and Madam Chair, I think I'm on board.
I think
Or
you are.
Madam Chair.
You're the chair again. 'cause you
I'm the
didn't
chair
make a
again.
motion.
I withdrew my motion.
I
I'm the chair
think what
again.
we're hearing is that we can amend our capital improvement plan at any time,
Correct.
but the second required budget meeting that we have to have, we have called that the capital improvement plan, right? I mean, it isn't a required separate meeting, for capital
No,
improvement?
when you, at the second budget public hearing, you will approve everything you've approved tonight plus the CIP.
Right, but we can amend it, so the
And you can
25th.
amend it at the very next board meeting.
Okay,
Okay,
which
all
is
right.
what we're waiting up for,
All right,
so,
Commission-
just to make it clear that
We
we're
can
not gonna
vote
have this
anymore. We're
resolved
done
by the 18th.
We done
Okay.
voting?
Commissioner Smith.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to make sure my colleagues understand that 25th meeting is getting longer and longer. It's a very long day. We got a lot of stuff coming up,
Not any
towers
worse
and
than
everything
today.
else, and some of us are leaving, going to Charlotte County too for fact. I know I'm going, but I'm just saying.
Okay, Commissioner Burnett?
No.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
Nope.
No, adjourn.